Hailie Deegan is back for another season, and NASCAR continues to see success testing higher horsepower in the next-gen car. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. Quick episode today, like I said in yesterday's video, which if you haven't checked out, you should go watch. Covered a lot of silly stories in that one, including the start of this week's next-gen test at the Charlotte Oval. And in that video yesterday, I said I'd come back in here today and talk about what NASCAR and the team seem to find after the first day of what is a 2-day test. They'll test again tomorrow. Today, they're just analyzing data and whatnot. And I'll be out of town, unfortunately, this weekend, so I won't have an immediate reaction to tomorrow's test, but we learned a lot yesterday. So that's what I'm going to focus on here today. But before we get to the latest from the next-gen car and the higher horsepower numbers NASCAR continues to test, we've got some fun stuff to talk about. First, my friends at Lionel Racing revealed the top 10 best-selling diecasts of the year. There you can see the full list. Kevin Harvick's Gravedigger scheme clocked in at number 1, followed by a ton of Hendrick and I guess Dale Jr. Chevys, with Bubba Wallace's Talladega win sneaking into the top 10. No real surprise seeing all those Larson and Chase Elliott, and of course Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s Xfinity car in the mix, but congratulations to Stewart Haas and Kevin Harvick. The Gravedigger scheme, which did sneak into my top 10 favorite schemes of the year. If you saw that video, you know what I'm talking about. SHR released a pretty cool clip this morning showing the actual Gravedigger monster truck quite literally demolishing the competition. I love seeing that kind of stuff on social media. I love that they were considerate enough to block out the Hamlin and Chase Elliott, Napa, and FedEx logos. No idea what cars they were destroying right there. No idea. Still a great clip overall. My friends at Lionel, of course, do the Authenticated podcast. If you're a Diecast fan, be sure to check that out, as well as all the other great podcasts at groovymotorsports.com. That link is down in the description below. Next up, yesterday, David Gilliland Racing confirmed that Hailie Deegan will return to the team. The defending most popular driver will once again drive the number 1 Ford truck in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series. This will be her sophomore season, her second season in the Truck Series, and all I'm looking for next year is improvement. 2021, quite honestly, was a disappointment. 22 races this year. She ran the full schedule. Only collected 1 top 10, 0 top 5s, no wins, obviously. Didn't make the playoffs, wasn't really close. We all assumed she'd be back in the 1 truck next year. It looks like she's, again, got sponsorship from Monster Energy, as well as Waste Quip, I think. I think that's a new sponsor. I don't know. But yeah, not surprising to see her back for a second year. We all expected that. Now we need to see improvement. That is the word of the day. I don't need wins next year. I don't even need a playoff berth, although I'd like one. I just need multiple top 10s, a couple of top 5s, lead some laps perhaps. We saw what a Cup Series driver, Ryan Preece, could do in a DGR truck when he got behind the wheel for a one-off at Nashville and won. So we know that truck may not be the best in the field, but it's a playoff capable truck. We need to see more top 10s out of Hailie Deegan next season. It'll help having some form of practice back at every race next year. That's absolutely going to help. More seat time in a NASCAR truck is only beneficial to someone like Hailie Deegan, and it helps, next year she'll be going back to a lot of tracks for the second time. The Truck Series doesn't go to many tracks twice a year. So that will be a big advantage for Hailie Deegan next season. Again, all I need to see is improvement. She doesn't need to light the world on fire. Again, doesn't need to win races next year, but her numbers and her performance have to be better than it was this year. Obviously, she's a star on social media, but the momentum behind her potential superstardom on the racetrack has waned dramatically. She has not won any races, at least not any races in NASCAR, in more than 2 years now. So all that momentum from a couple years ago, and Timmy Deegan, Hailie Deegan's gonna be the next big thing, that nobody's talking about that anymore because she was very disappointing on track this season. So need to see some improvement. She's still young. The ship has not sailed by any means. We just need to see baby steps. Hey y'all, it's Eric from the future, sitting down to edit this episode, and Our Motorsports just announced that they are expanding their Xfinity Series operation for next year with Brett Moffitt, Jeb Burton, and Anthony Alfredo as their 3 full-time drivers. I love this. Happy for Brett Moffitt. I've been very high on Brett Moffitt for a few years now, since his Truck Series championship. All 3 of these drivers do technically have Cup Series experience, but I expect Brett Moffitt, honestly, to anchor their operation. Our Motorsports is not a top Xfinity team, but they're a team capable of running inside the top 10, top 15 with some regularity, and maybe at certain tracks they'll have a shot at the win. Jeb Burton, of course, lost his ride at Kaulig, Landon Castle bringing that cryptocurrency money over there. I'm excited about that, but I'm happy to see Jeb still racing full-time in Xfinity for a team that I think honestly is a little more suitable for his talent. Like, Jeb Burton's good. He did sneak into the playoffs last year with that win at Talladega, but he didn't light the world on fire. He's never really lit the world on fire. I think a decent Xfinity team like Our Motorsports really suits him. And in many ways, this sounds like a backhanded compliment or an insult, but I think the same goes for Anthony Alfredo. I like Anthony Alfredo a lot. He's a friend of the show, and I was excited for him to get this Cup Series opportunity last year with Front Row Motorsports, but from the moment that was announced, we all knew he was not really Cup Series ready. He wasn't terrible this season, but the results were certainly lackluster. I was hopeful, though, that he would land a decent Xfinity Series ride, and this, I think, suits him perfectly. A great chance for him to get one full-time season of Xfinity under his belt, something he's actually never had before. He's got two somewhat veteran teammates that he can lean on. I think this suits him really well. I think you'll see Alfredo contend for top 10s and top 15s all year long in Xfinity. I think he's a driver who still has a future in the NASCAR Cup Series. Our Motorsports is a step towards that ultimate goal, because driving for Front Row in a 30th place, 25th place car every week was never the dream. That's no driver's dream. For some drivers, it's a job. It's a step along the way. That's what it was. Hopefully for Anthony Alfredo, I think a full-time Xfinity gig with Our Motorsports suits his talent, suits where he is in his career perfectly. So overall, I'm excited. I like this driver lineup a lot. Brett Moffitt, I think, is going to lead that team. I think Jeb Burton's going to have some great runs, and I think Anthony Alfredo may surprise some people next year. So just wanted to react to that real quick. Now back to the rest of the show. Now let's talk about yesterday's next gen test. Remember, this test was kind of added in last minute after last month's test at the Charlotte Oval raised a lot of concerns. First things first, a lot of people were wondering what car number Justin Hailie was going to run next season, since he's racing full-time in the Cup Series for Kaulig. They have the 16 car that we now know will be driven by AJ Allmendinger, Noah Gragson, and Daniel Hemrick for various number of races, but what number would Justin Hailie drive? The 10, the 11, those are taken. Well, it was revealed during the test yesterday, these photos are from NASCAR, that he will drive the 31 car. Yeah, that's right. I don't think we've seen the 31 car in the Cup Series since, I mean, Tyler Reddick raced it a couple times in 2019, I believe, but I don't think we've seen it since then. I don't think it's been full-time since, like, Ryan Newman, right? He was the last guy to drive the 31. It's typically an RCR number, so it's kind of interesting to see Kaulig with a different font, their own take on it, debuting the 31 at this test. It's pretty cool. Nothing really to make of it, but if you're a Justin Hailie fan, now you know what number to get tattooed on your arm, I guess. That's all. But now let's talk about what actually happened in yesterday's test. So, as we discussed in yesterday's episode, as Bozy Tatarovich noted on Twitter, NASCAR and the teams were expected to test 3 different rules packages at different points in the day. One of which was the typical 550 horsepower with a slightly shorter spoiler than originally advertised, 7 inches tall. The other 2 packages both included 670 horsepower, which is very similar to what the NASCAR Xfinity Series raced all of last season. You can see Bozy's tweet here. This kind of gives you the gist of what the difference between the 3 packages are. Both the second and third packages include higher horsepower, but they also included a slightly shorter spoiler, 6 inches, and package 3 included a large shark fin and deck fin on the back of the car, as well as the spoiler being shifted to the right a little bit. Well, after yesterday's nearly 8-hour-long test, again in fairly chilly, cold conditions, it sounds like the drivers picked a favorite, and I think fans will be happy with what they chose. Obviously, I'm here in Texas. I'm not out at the test, so take it from somebody who is very close to the action. Bob Pockers tweeted this yesterday. Still checking around, but it sounds like the consensus from today's test is that the second package tested, 670 horsepower with the centered spoiler, in other words, not the spoiler off center to the right with the big shark fin, was what drivers liked best today. TBD on testing plan for Friday. No surprise, the drivers liked higher horsepower and not the big fins adding a bunch of side force. They liked the cars maybe to be a little more unstable, harder to drive, that kind of thing. Well, Bob Pockers tweeted again this morning, again today, the teams are not testing. NASCAR and the teams are analyzing data from yesterday's test before tomorrow. Pockers tweeted this morning, no testing today as NASCAR continues evaluating data and talking to teams following testing Wednesday. Pulse is that there will be more work with the 670 horsepower package Friday on the Charlotte Oval, potentially with different spoiler sizes and or other aero elements. So we've been covering this for more than a week now, but with every passing day, it continues to sound more and more and more likely that NASCAR is going to go with 670 horsepower at every track besides the super speedways next season. Which, given that we've had to suffer through 3 years of super high drag, high downforce, 550 horsepower racing at the big tracks, I think many fans, and especially all the drivers, will welcome this change. With 670 horsepower under the hood, there will be some off-throttle time. Maybe not the first couple laps after a restart with fresh tires, but shortly into the run, there will be chances for drivers to lift pretty consistently at most big tracks. And as you can see in some of these clips from yesterday's test, yeah, it's a test. You don't know how hard they're pushing, but they simulated restarts, and you can see some jostling for position. But more importantly, you'll notice the cars are not quite as tightly packed together as they appeared in the most recent Gen 6 era, which sure, on a restart, I liked seeing them all packed up together, 3 and 4 wide, jammed up, all full throttle, going for it. But over the course of a run, I think this style of racing is going to lead to more passing, is going to lead to the best drivers being able to show their stuff. Cars are going to be a little more on edge. As we saw yesterday, a couple different drivers spun out. Kyle Busch with the epic save right here. That's the kind of stuff that was largely missing from the 550 horsepower high downforce days. Now, we still don't know exactly what the downforce numbers, and we still don't know for sure what horsepower number NASCAR is going to go with. All signs seem to point towards higher horsepower next season, and I know 670 is not 900, but it's a step in the right direction. It's, again, very similar to what the Xfinity Series raced last year, and everyone seemed to love the show they put on a weekly basis. But as Bob Pockris noted, they are going to test additional spoilers and other aero elements, so we could still see high drag, high downforce. Sounds like they're leaning towards a shorter spoiler. They've continuously shrunk it throughout these tests. Remember, it was 8-9 inches, then this test it was 7 inches, and then at one point it was 6 inches. Like, seems to be getting smaller, not taller, which again leads to less downforce, probably a little less dirty air, which I think drivers will be excited about, and hopefully leads to good racing on track that fans can get excited about as well. Like I said a week ago, NASCAR should put that press release out as soon as they possibly can. We're adding horsepower to the intermediate package. Drivers will be more willing to endorse it. I think fans will be excited. It just sounds good. Ooh, more horsepower? Oh, that just sounds great, right? Good publicity and more than likely good racing next season. That's what it sounds like we're in store for. I know it's just testing, but some of the clips yesterday, cars look pretty racy. The drivers seemed pretty aggressive. They seemed unstable at times, but still able to make moves, still willing to make aggressive moves and go for broke. We could be close to the right balance for intermediate tracks with this next gen car. I know it's very last minute. We're less than 2 months out from the Clash. We're only about 2 months away now from the Daytona 500 and the start of the official regular season, so not a lot of time left to make any big swings. But if NASCAR actually hits on it right here with this test, if 670 horsepower, maybe a 6-inch spoiler or something else, if that actually ends up producing great racing this season, boy, it'll all have been worth it. These sleepless nights that I'm sure many NASCAR executives and teams are going through right now, I think they'll be worth it if the racing actually does look good next season. And I think we're close. I think we're in the ballpark now, whereas a couple months ago, I was not sure at all. Still a lot of testing left to be done. NASCAR announced yesterday that the Daytona tests, which again is a super speedway, will be a different rules package in early January. Those will be open to the public. So if you're in the Daytona, if you're in the Florida area, it might be worth checking those out. Anyway, that is all the news. That's all I wanted to talk about here today. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. We talk NASCAR news, rumors, predictions, and much more every single day, or very nearly, here on this channel. And as always, a huge thank you to my amazing Patreon supporters. I greatly appreciate your support. Like I said, I'll be out of town the next few days, but I've got some fun videos planned that will be released in the meantime that I hope you all enjoy. I'll see you all again very soon. Have a fantastic rest of your week.